For those who don't know me, I'm Marilyn Brandt, and I'm with, am I too loud? Because I tend to talk real loud without the microphone. I'm with Lakeview Cemetery up in Cleveland, and I'm the current president of the Ohio Cemetery Association. Thank you for attending our spring conference, and let's get started by all standing up and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, a little warning to everyone. First of all, if you can all remember to silence your phones, that would be pretty nice for all the speakers and everybody talking to us. We're not interrupting everybody. But at 9:50 this morning, they are doing the statewide national weather warning system. It's typically, for those who are typically in the southern part of Ohio, that's when all the tornado alarms go off and all that. There are going to be some phones that go off. Some of the smartphones might have that alert going off, so don't freak out and panic. So your board has been quite busy this year. Our legislative committee, with the help of Tim Long, has been watching and making suggestions to some legislative activities that are pertinent to our industry. Tim will be presenting an updated report in our upcoming newsletter, and more than likely we'll have probably a report at our summer convention too. We've been busy with organizing upcoming events, which you should have received a list of. I think there is a list. Do we have a list in our pamphlets, Jan, of the upcoming events? In August, July 31st through August 2nd is our summer convention, which is up in Cleveland this year. So hopefully everyone can make it up there. Got some fun ideas that we're going to be doing. But our biggest challenge that we've taken on this year is how to make the Ohio Cemetery Association more viable to all our members. Like many other trade organizations, we're experiencing a decline in membership and attendance to our events. We are quite concerned. This has been a trend that's been happening for several years now. But we believe that the association is definitely worth fighting for. We're looking at several avenues of enhancing our communication with members and improving our educational opportunities. What is extremely important in this process is the feedback and participation from you and the rest of the membership. A lot of work is put into creating the agendas for our meetings, and if we are not reaching or tickling your interest, let us know. Let us know what topics that you'd like to hear. As an example, we have a speaker this afternoon that was actually brought to my attention by one of our members. Thank you, Elaine. So, again, participation is key for this organization. I put together the agenda for this meeting, and obviously I'm going to put things together that I like and I want to hear, but it might not be of interest to everybody. So let us know. Don't be shy. Let us know. Our second speaker today, Ron Watt, will also be addressing some of the things that we're looking into and moving forward to make the association more viable to everyone. So at this time, I'd like to introduce those board members that have been working so hard. Pat Ebright in the back, Kirk Roberts, also in the back, Rufus Slade, Scott Harmon, Chris Sullivan, there he is, Bob Porter, And we have a newly elected member, Joe Wilson, who is not here today, but he's with the CMS East Group. And we can't forget our Secretary Treasurer, Jan Burrows. I don't know what we would do without her, that's for sure. I want to thank all the board members. Thank you for all your efforts. So at this time, do we have any new cemeterians or suppliers? Please raise your hand. I'm going to have you stand up and introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, if I didn't meet you last night, I'm Chris Shackles from Global Bronze. So we're located out of Toronto, Canada. So we deal with everything from glass front niches, statuary, features, columbariums, anything you can possibly need. So if you want to come talk to me, come see me there later today in one of the breaks.
Hi, I'm Joe Benline. I'm superintendent of Union Cemetery in Steubenville, Ohio, and actually just started in this business back in August, so I'm really new to this business. Nice to meet y'all.
Anybody else? Okay, well, welcome. And for everyone else, please take the time to introduce yourselves. Don't be shy. You never know what you might have in common. Especially for the newest member who just started in August in this industry, he's got a lot to learn, and you got a great resource right here. On to our suppliers. Our suppliers are vital members of our organization. They not only supply us with products and services that we use and sell, but they also help support our events for this organization. At this time, actually, I would like to have all of them come up and have a quick introduction. There's several of them that have booths, so come on up and introduce yourselves.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Miles Cordy. I'm with the Department of Service Company. We're a full-service commercial grounds maintenance company. We specialize in cemeteries. We've been in business since 1963. We currently work with over 100 properties throughout Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. If you have any questions concerning outsourcing, I'd love to talk to you. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Ingle. I'm from Cold Spring. We handle everything from markers and monuments to private estates, community buildings, cemetery building solution projects, things like that. So I'd love to meet everybody, and if you have any questions, please feel free to come over to the booth and spend some time. My name is Jim Holm. I'm with Eagle Granite Company out of Elberton, Georgia. We do monuments, markers, mausoleums, columbariums, and anything granite will try once, probably. Great to be here. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm RJ DeWild with Holland Supply. We manufacture operational equipment for cemeteries and funeral homes. Happy to be here and look forward to talking with you guys. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Bob Porter with Matthews International. Introducing some new glass niches. We made some improvements to our glass niche fronts. I'd like to discuss that with you if you have an interest in glass niches. Also have our new Nature series niche plates that we're introducing. And we have other new products like a widget series emblems. If you have anybody who may have an interest in particular colleges, we can discuss that with you as well. Thank you, and I'll talk to you later.
Hello, my name is Eric Clark. I'm with the Tribute Precast Company. We can handle anything from private or from master planning. We can do vaults, columbariums, mausoleums, things like that. If you have any questions, please come see me over at the Tribute table. We'd love to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raymond Leach with Salem Stones, and we're a granite provider, providing all granite products from memorials on up to columbariums and mausoleums. We do a lot of cremation garden design also. I've got some new cremation products and some new cremation benches, etc. at my booth, so please stop by. I'd love to give you that information. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a great day to be on this side of the grass. My name's Stu Irwin. I'm happy to be in front of you. I represent Beyond It. We're a manufacturer based in Italy. It's a family-owned company that's been in business for more than 50 years. We provide glass niches, we provide letters, we provide vases, primarily mausoleum memorialization and columbarium memorialization. If you get an opportunity, please come by my booth. I really don't have my booth because UPS ate it 2 weeks ago, so I bought what I could out of my car. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, so you can't be shy. You have to visit their booths. You have to have a conversation with them. Again, they are vital members of this organization. Even if you don't have a need for either their product or their service currently, you never know when the time may arise. Hey, I remember that person I talked to 5 years ago, whatever. We have a need for a columbarium or for some mowing and trimming services or whatever. So, and then you never know when you meet another colleague that has a need also. Hey, I know this person. I know this organization that you can send to. We will have plenty of opportunities throughout the day today to visit and talk with them. And I'm expecting everyone to learn something new about a product or one of the vendors. So there may be a test later on. Like I said, they are vital. Our vendors are vital with the organization in many aspects, and one is sponsoring. So I'd like to read off the sponsors that we have that have contributed for this conference, particular conference. We had Apartment Services, Arlington Memorial Gardens, Cold Spring Memorial Group, Eagle Granite, Insura Seal, Ferncliff Cemetery, Matthews International, Salem Stones, Spring Grove Cemetery, Tribute Precast, Woodland Cemetery, and Vantage Products. Let's give a round of applause. And finally, before we get to our first speaker, the OCA is hosting the Crematory Operators Certification Program the next 2 days, on Thursday and Friday. It's another educational opportunity which is hosted by the OCA. Program Chair Rufus Slade has put together a great agenda with Matthews Environmental Solutions. We have 20...
It went up, it is now
31 registrants for the first day, and then there's Friday is the advanced certificate.
Actually, Friday, I think it's 21.
So then Friday is the advanced certificate, and we have 21 registrants. Not all members from our own organization, from Ohio, but we've got people coming from Florida,
Montana,
Colorado, Montana, Tennessee, Pennsylvania. Good work, Rufus. Thank you very much. So now on to our keynote speaker. I think we're a little early. Well, we can wait.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Let's see. So, I don't have any jokes. I'm not good at jokes. Who's got a good joke? Come on, Bob. You got something good back there. We have to. Jan, Kirk, you got something funny to say? Oh.
Has anyone ever heard the one about the bed?
No. Tell us about the bed.
It hasn't been made up yet.
Ah.
You can thank JP for that.
I was going to say, Jeff, you got to have some good ones.
My jokes aren't that short.
Well, we do have a few minutes, so you're welcome to come up with a good one.
Can we go up there?
Sure.
It's not a short one.
That's all right.
Actually, I have a couple.
Sure.
Um, Actually, the year I was president, I was standing telling jokes the entire time and nobody laughed at any of them. Until the night of the banquet, nobody laughed. So I just remembered that before I came up here.
That was your right going, almost when you come back.
Exactly. So there's this guy, he wanted to become a monk. And so he goes up to this monastery and he says, talks to the priest, he says, I would like to come in here and find myself and spend some time in spiritual reflection. They interviewed him, they said, okay, you're good, we'll have you come in. And they had him started to transcribe the Bible. And he did this for months and he enjoyed himself very much. And then one day he came up to the head priest and he said, you know what, I've been doing this for a long time and I've noticed that what I'm transcribing is what someone else had transcribed. I presume what they had transcribed was somebody else had transcribed. So this has probably been going on for a long time. When's the last time I made checks against the originals? And the head priest is like, I've been here for decades and I've never. So he said, that's a good idea. So he goes down in the vault in the basement and he's down there all day, he misses lunch, he misses dinner. Somebody says, somebody go down there and check on him. They go down there and check on him, and he's down there with his head in his hands, just sobbing away. He said, what's the matter? He said, the word is celebrate. You can explain it to the people who don't care.
Well, thank you, John. So now on to our keynote speaker. We're a few minutes early. We could lead right into that after that one. Bill Northrup, is a statewide and nationally respected leader in secondary education. He was the longtime principal of Worthington High School, an award-winning institution noted for its emphasis on technology and leadership in innovative education techniques. Obviously, we're staying in the city of Worthington, so he's local. But Bill is even more than that. He and his wife Gretchen are world travelers, sports fanatics. Do you root for the Cavs? Good, yes. And I would assume Ohio State too, so that's a good thing. He experts in humor and in life itself. Bill is deeply involved in Worthington community activities. Bill and his wife are avid supporters of national and regional historical foundations, the national parks, and the preservation of our natural environment and wildlife. He has been a key presenter at both national and Ohio conferences for secondary principals. For the past 8 years, he has owned an educational consulting company. Bill Northrup has been selected for the 2017 Lifetime Achievement in Education and Human Development Award from his alma mater, Bowling Green State University, where he received his degree in education. He also has 2 masters from Kent State, one in history and the other in education administration. Bill and Gretchen have been a team for 51 years. They have 3 grown children and 6 grandchildren, all products of Worthington High and the Worthington school system. His keynote speech will address the many frontiers and challenges that any business, large and small, faces. He has geared his speech to the cemetery profession and how his many experiences and tips as an educator, marketer, and businessman would apply to OCA members. Please give a warm welcome to Bill Northrup.
My first challenge is to meet the expectations from the introduction. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today and to be able to have some interaction with you, folks who I have tremendous respect for. I say that because I have tried to do my homework, and I understand that this organization is one that is very diverse in nature, that each of you has a unique business, cemetery, who responds to whether it's local, state, national government, that your interactions are diverse, that your makeup is very, very different from most other organizations, in that you're homogeneous in some ways, but also very heterogeneous in other ways. So this morning, in talking with Ron and your leaders about the interaction today, what we're going to try to do this morning is to share with you some ideas that may be common to across the board, no matter what your business is, and talk about ways in which we can do the best possible job in dealing with our clients. So with that in mind, and talking about the art of the challenge, what are we seeing and experiencing in the world around us today? Does the world look like it did 25 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago? How about a year ago? How about 6 months ago? How about what it looks like after the latest tweet? What are we at? Where are we today? In looking at change and looking at the challenge of it, I wanted to share with you something from a magazine or an organization that I often look to. It's called Industry Tap. I wanted to share with you the following information. The knowledge doubling curve, maybe you've heard of this. By the end of World War II, knowledge was doubling every 25 years. Today, things are not as simple. For example, nanotechnology knowledge is doubling every 2 years, clinical knowledge every 18 years, but on the average, human knowledge is doubling every 13 months. According to IBM, the build-out of the Internet of Things will lead to the doubling of knowledge eventually every 12 hours. Just amazing. We were talking at the table a little bit earlier. One of the, I will not name names, was showing me the fact that he was very proud of his flip phone. Most of us have moved from the flip phone to smartphones. And I think probably we talk about the fact that the phone may be a little smarter than we are. And in doing so, the main reason that my wife and I switched to the smartphone was the word grandchildren. What we found is our grandchildren, the best way to communicate with them and stay in touch was to text. So as we respond to change, the motivating factor can be varied and different no matter what the situation is. We wear a lot of hats. In responding to challenges, let me give you an example. I'm the high school principal. I have a student, Ron Watt, who seems like a fine young man. I even recognize him as the principal for his academic accomplishment. Now, Ron asked my daughter Beth out for a date. What hat am I going to wear now? Father, right? And by the way, I'm the high school principal where Ron is. So, do you think I might go to one of my assistant principals and ask him, what's the scoop on Ron? Absolutely, I did that. And what I did was to find out what kind of a young man Ron was and whether he was somebody I wanted to go out with my daughter. My point being, the hats that we wear in different situations affect the way we respond to the challenge. And challenges come at us from all directions. And how we respond really makes the difference as to how successful our business is, our organization is, or whatever role that we are playing. The classic responses often to challenge are, we can be a victim and just say, well, you know, it's beyond me. I can't deal with it. Or the ostrich approach. Maybe if I bury my head, it'll go away soon. or unwilling participant. Some automatically embrace change and take the challenge. Others want to dissect it, synthesize it, take a look at it, and be a solution builder or an implementer. What roles have you played in your different leadership roles with your cemetery or organization? Think about the hats you've worn. So this morning, as we talk about, and I know that you represent township, municipal, churchyard organizations and cemeteries. Some are corporate for-profit, some are large nonprofit cemeteries. I'm very much aware that there are cemeteries like Lakeview that's 148 years old and has 108,000 residents. Or Spring Grove Cemetery in Cincinnati, which is even larger and has a huge amount of undeveloped land. All these things present challenges that are unique to you and your organization. So in doing so, what I'd like to talk about today are the fundamentals of the art of the challenge. What are the things, no matter what our role is, how can we respond? And first, let me deal with one of the elephants in the room, possibly, and that is, what's a principal and an educator doing talking to a group of business people? Understand that. Well, let me share with you that Worthington High School had a $62 million budget. I had 155 teachers who reported to me. I did all of their evaluations. I was the human resource person for Worthington High School. All the classified staff, secretaries, cooks, and custodians, reported to me. I worked with them. I was responsible for their evaluations, for their well-being as a part of the workforce at our building. Our product was education, probably the most important product in the world as far as a business is concerned. Our clients were students and parents. Tough audience, trust me. To have a student sitting there at 9 o'clock in the morning taking American history, that's a challenge. They may not want to be there. So our business was one of every day challenging students to be better, to learn, and to graduate a better person and a more rounded person. Certainly a business, certainly a very important business. In that leadership role, we had many challenges along the way. So I'd like to talk with you first about the first item, human touch. One of the key factors as far as the art of the challenge is concerned would be the human touch. That factor is probably the most important piece in any business where we're dealing with human beings. When we came to Worthington High School to take over as principal, one of the things that I had learned very much was that we must, before we talk about learning history, learning English, learning math, the 3 R's, we must have the 4 R's in place. What are those 4 R's? Relationships. Any quality school puts students first. We're not there as a principal to make myself look good. We're not there as teachers to collect a salary. We're not there as a custodian to just work and go home. We're there for kids. And so the first organizational piece that we did was to ensure that we were a school who put students first in all of our decisions. Budget, personnel, didn't matter what it was. Building maintenance, keeping the bathrooms clean and graffiti-free, whatever it was. The relationships were the key part of our school. That's the first R. The second R, respect. That's a non-negotiable. We will always demonstrate respect for each other, be it student to teacher, teacher to student, principal to parent, whoever it might be. All relationships will be done in a respectful, dignified manner. Third, responsibility. It's our job as a school to ensure that all students graduate with a work ethic and are responsible for their actions. And as parents, you're responsible for your child's action. And we had conversations with our parents about that very fact, that we expected the connection and we expected the responsibility to go both ways. And finally, recognition. You cannot celebrate too often. We did everything we could to celebrate kids rising to the expectations that we set, whether it was for behavior. We had a talent assembly at the end of the year. All the kids who had 96% attendance or higher were allowed to attend. We did things so that we recognized the expectations. So the 4 R's drove our human touch. When I came, we had 2,800 students at Worthington High School, 155 teachers, as I shared, 60 classified, 5,000 parents. So as a principal, how do you reach out and connect? As a business owner in Cincinnati, Cleveland, Springfield, Dayton, wherever it might be, how do you connect with the community? What are the ways in which you do that? I visited every teacher's classroom twice a week. Stopped by, went into the classrooms. I told the teachers, don't even acknowledge I'm there. I just want to see the great things you're doing. I would take an index card, jot them a little note after we were done, just saying, good job, here's what I saw. I attended every athletic contest, 30 varsity sports, a lot of evenings, and a lot of evenings. Every band contest, every concert, so that the kids knew I was concerned about them and that I was there for them. Connecting to the people in different ways, the human touch. Birthdays. How many kids go unrecognized every year at their school? We read the birthdays every day. That was the way that every child got recognized at least once a year at our school. Small thing, we gave out pride pins for catching kids doing good. Now I understand that's not great English. My English teachers corrected me on that, but that's what we called it. So each morning I would read over the PA. This morning I would like to congratulate Sheila Smith. Sheila did whatever it might be that the teacher nominated her for or a fellow student nominated the student for. People said that's corny. We had students wearing their pride pins on their lapels. They didn't think it was corny. Connecting, finding ways, human touch, to work alongside others. When the custodians worked like crazy to get the building ready for the opening of school, the administrators, we provided a steak dinner, cooked it out on the front lawn of the school so the community could see, and celebrated our custodians and maintenance staff for the work they had done to get the building ready for the opening of school. That steak dinner became an event that they loved, the custodians did. And for the secretaries, everybody knows, I saw you acknowledge this morning a very important person, and I know why. Those are the folks that make or break your building. They're the ones who take the phone calls when somebody calls in the morning and a parent's irate. They're the ones when a student comes in and they're upset. The first person to deal with the community often is your secretary, administrative assistants. We did everything we could to honor, recognize, and support those folks because of the great jobs that they do. I was highly visible at hall exchanges. I was out every day. Whenever the bell rang and the kids were in the halls, I was there with them. I'm hoping that you're processing, so what are some of the ways in my role, in my leadership, the things that I do? How can I then extend and reach out in some of the similar kinds of ways that I'm sharing with you now? We had Breakfast Club. What was breakfast? Anybody remember the movie Breakfast Club? We'll show our ages, yeah. What we did, we had kids who were never recognized academically. They were getting D's, F's, C's, and Worthington High School is a high achieving place. We would have the number usually some of the highest number of national merit scholars. Our kids were going on to college, all these great numbers. But there were a lot of kids who were not doing well or being recognized. So what we did, we set Breakfast Club up, and here's the way it worked. Teachers could nominate a student who had improved from a D to a C during the 9-week grading period. A student who had consistently been failing tests got 3 Ds, just as small steps. So what we would do, we would send a letter home and monthly have Breakfast Club. We would invite the students, it was on the letterhead stationery, they would come in the morning and we would have a guest speaker. And I was amazed at the people who volunteered to guest speak. People like John McConnell, who founded Worthington Industries in his garage after World War II, and it's the most productive specialty steel company in the world today, right here in Worthington Industries. He came because he related to those kids. These were our speakers. I had parents in tears who came up to me and said after we had the Breakfast Club and they received their recognition, they said, "Bill, I didn't open the letter for a week because every letter I've ever gotten from the schools has been that my son had done something wrong or he was failing." And these parents had tears in their eyes because it was the first time their child had been recognized for years. The small human touches go a long, long way to break down, whether it's a large or small organization, in some very special ways. So when you start thinking about things like how do we partner with funeral directors, what's our relationship look like with governing agencies that we deal with, how do we deal with a grieving family, how do we respond to complaints about cemetery maintenance, if we think about the human touch and how we might approach that with maybe something I've shared just a little bit ago, may trigger how we respond to some of those kinds of things. The art of listening. The art of listening. Second key factor as far as responding to a challenge. The communication channels, the process for synthesis and analysis. How do we approach that? How do we listen? What I did when I came to Worthington High School, I had sent a letter out to all the faculty and I said, listen, I'm your new principal. I'm going to be here all summer. Please come in and just take a half an hour to sit down and share with me, and I'm going to have 2 questions for you. What do we do well, and what can we do better? A lot of folks said, well, that's the summer. The teachers won't come in. I had 95% of the faculty came in over the summer because it was the first time they'd had a principal who asked them those 2 questions. What do we do well? What can we do better? From that, I still have, I'm one of those old legal pad people. I took copious notes, and my handwriting is so bad, I'm surprised that I was able to read it, but I was. And from those notes emerged our 2-year plan for Worthington High School. We started with simple things. Teachers didn't like the fact that kids could wear hats to class in the building. We did away with students wearing hats to class, or in the building actually, because the teachers couldn't see their eyes, couldn't respond, couldn't tell if maybe they were under the influence or whatever it might be. Simple thing, went a long way. Teachers said there's too many interruptions to our classroom during the school day. We eliminated the interruptions. Just simple things. We used the KISS theory, listened to what the teachers said before we tried to go to the big picture things, which we did over the years. But first, we wanted to get the pieces in place that the teachers thought were really important. I did the same thing with the students. I asked the students, come by my office. Let's sit down and talk. I'll be in the cafeteria for lunch today. Any student who would like to come over to the table and talk, come on over. So I spent a lot of lunch periods increased my belt size by 2 inches, and spent a lot of time in the cafeteria, but the kids had the opportunity to share their thoughts about their school. Art of listening. But there's 2 pieces to that. If we listen but don't respond, credibility goes out the window. Not that we always agree with, and we may not agree, but we respond, we synthesize, process, and take the appropriate actions. We created faculty channels for the faculty to communicate with each other. We built into their schedules the opportunity for them to meet during the school day, to interact, to discuss, to plan, those kinds of things. So how are the ways that you can work with your people and demonstrate the art of listening? One of the key things is to identify who are those folks. I would suggest you just simply, again, take out that legal pad. Who are the people that I interact with daily, monthly, once a year? Who are they, or who should I be interacting with? Who might that be? And start talking about and thinking about the art of listening and the ways in which we can do that. About my 3rd year as principal, our faculty picked up on from some students that there was a concern from the African American students regarding our school and the relationships with the African American students. And it was one of those things where I was just getting back from the National Principals Conference where I had been speaking. We met as an administrative team the evening before we had heard that this student walkout was going to occur. And of course, knowing how the news media is, they were already notified by someone that this walkout was going to take place. So how did we respond to that? Well, first of all, we had an organization that I met with regularly called the Worthington Alliance of Black Parents. And what we did was, I called the leaders of that organization and asked that they come in the next morning to talk about what the issues are and what the concerns are. They came in. We had probably 10 to 15 black student leaders and about 15 parents. Again, I used the easel board, took down notes on everything that was a concern. What did we do next? We had a closed circuit TV system throughout the building. Our communications people that taught our technology classes created a little studio so I could do fireside chats to the school. Those of you who remember Franklin Roosevelt and fireside chats, I would do periodic fireside chats to the school. Stopped class, and I shared with the entire school what was happening with the meeting that was taking place, what the issues were, and that we would develop a plan to address the issues. That helped lower the dissonance and the concerns. The black students leaders said we would still like to do the walkout. I said, absolutely. May I join you? Just think about that simple act. I said, absolutely. May I join you? They said, of course. So I said, how about if I ask any other student across the school if they would like to participate as well? Really? Absolutely, let's do it. Long and short of it is, we had 2,000, it was voluntary, 2,750 students participate in the walkout. The black student leaders led it, went out through the doors, classes disassembled, teachers came out with their students, walked outside, had a minute and a half of silence, if you can imagine that, with 2,800 students. With reflection, we went to the Rock, which is a place at our school where students could decorate the rock with happy birthday or whatever, it was a symbolic gathering place for our school, had a moment of silence, reflection about what we could do to get better, came back inside, and over the next 3 years, we accomplished what we had set out to do with the issues and challenges that had come out of those sessions. The art of listening, the art of listening. So what's the feedback loop look like for your organization? What type of trainings provided for your employees regarding customer satisfaction? How do you stay in touch with families who have loved ones interned? Is there a process that you interact on a regular basis with the families of those who have people interred, loved ones interred in your cemetery? How do you stay in tune with the new laws and guidelines that impact your organization or business? The art of listening, and who's the audience? The third piece of the art of the challenge is a sense of curiosity. Consistently asking the question, what are we doing well? What can we do better? When you do include a large group of people and ask that question, it's amazing what takes place. There's a catharsis, first of all, that occurs when we reach out and ask, what are we doing well? What can we do better? It shows a respect for those with whom we interact. And it also demonstrates our sense of curiosity, because sometimes we're afraid to ask the question because of what the answer might be. I think we all know that. At least I do. In my 51 years of marriage, I know sometimes what questions may get me in trouble, or what things I don't do may get me in trouble. And I think that the art of curiosity, sometimes just asking the question, is the first major step in dealing with whatever the challenge might be. So who do you include when you ask that question? Families, funeral directors, government entities, law enforcement, crematoriums, legal counsel? Who are the people that you should include in that loop as you think about that curiosity, finding out about what can we do well, or what are we doing well, and what can we do better? Should we be surveying the families of those who have individuals interred to find out what they think? Are they satisfied? What do they think about the maintenance? All those kinds of things. As we ask those questions and have the art of curiosity, what kind of professional development do we provide for our people to help them grow in whatever their roles might be? What type of professional literature do we help provide for them that they might help grow? What kind of professional organizations might they be members of or encourage them to do so? Are there workshops or seminars such as this wonderful meeting and get together for our folks? So new solutions to old problems sometimes work best. We were having issues with the use of marijuana. Today it's heroin, in case you haven't followed that in the schools. The biggest issue is heroin today. During the time I was principal, it was hallucinogens was one of the major issues. We developed a program called Community Intervention that was an outreach to parents and students in the way in which we interacted with students. And we trained our faculty to be observant, to look for those danger signs and symptoms of kids who might be using. Everything from those kids who cut. I don't know whether you're familiar with that, but there are young people today who actually use razor blades and those kinds of things and actually cut because of their dissatisfaction at that point with who they are or their life in general. So what are the danger signs? What are the symptoms? And we worked with the community and community organizations to partner together to deal with the issue. And the end product was that we lowered tremendously the incidence rate and the use. We implemented a drug and alcohol survey that we asked the students to take, completely anonymous, of course. and we were able to address the problem. Conflict resolution. Young people do have conflicts. We developed peer mediation, where we got together. Students actually sat down with other students who were having issues and worked out a mediation. Again, that sense of curiosity, looking at old problems with a new lens, works. Let me give you a classic example of that idea of a sense of curiosity. All of us know the name George Washington. George Washington, if he was evaluated and rated today as far as being a general, would probably come out right at the level of mediocre. Washington won very few battles during the Revolutionary War. He recognized that he was fighting the finest army in the world, the British, and that any major confrontation on the battlefield, he lost. So what was his strategy? Hit and run, hit and run, hit and run. Small attacks, little pincer movements, get the British engaged, always have the route for retreat behind me, and keep them engaged, wear them down. In the South, he had two generals, Nathaniel Greene, and also Francis Morgan, the Swamp Fox, who conducted the same strategy. The end result was, eventually, Cornwallis was trapped, and the one major battle of the war, we won. Strategy. Washington's curiosity led him to developing a new strategy that worked and worked well. That sense of curiosity, think of names that we recognize. The Wright brothers, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, John Glenn, Neil Armstrong, both Ohioans. Think of their sense of curiosity, their willingness to take the challenge, and to try new things. So certainly, I would ask, what professional literature do you read? What are the kinds of things that you do to get information back from others? What does the feedback loop look like for those with whom you interact? And using that sense of curiosity, asking, what do we do well and what can we do better? The next piece of this whole idea of the art of the challenge, building a strong brand. Building a strong brand. Certainly essential as a business. We use the 4 C's to drive our branding and to drive our guiding principles and who we were and who we wanted to be. The 4 C's: character, courage, compassion, and commitment. Any organization, I believe, who adopts the 4 C's and follows that model will be successful. Character, dignity, integrity matter. All of our interactions are founded in those pieces. The courage to take action. The courage to meet a challenge. The courage to say, I screwed up, I could have done it better. I've said that many times. We make mistakes, but the courage to admit to those and then grow from them is critical to a quality organization. Compassion. Certainly, what other business in the world has part of its foundation is compassion? The grieving family, that individual who is concerned about the maintenance of the cemetery where their loved one is interred. The person who comes to the cemetery and is not sure where the marker is any longer for their loved one and has struggling to find where that might be. So the way in which we show compassion is evidenced by our practices. Do we have maps ready, available, and handy so that people who are looking for a particular marker can find them? Do we have somebody who can actually go out with the individual to help them find where the location is? What are the ways in which we demonstrate as a compassionate business and organization our compassion in the way that we do our business practices? What do they look like? What do they look like? And certainly as a school, if we're not compassionate dealing with young people and parents in the people business, we have no business even being there. And we should be replaced, frankly. And commitment. That commitment to what we believe is right. That commitment to the practices that we believe are compassionate, are on target, are well-founded, and the courage to carry them out. So how did we brand at Worthington High School? Well, it began with many, many pieces. First of all, Worthington High School is the oldest secondary school in the state of Ohio, 1808. Do you think all of our students knew that by the time they graduated? You better believe it. We were founded by a land grant. I'm an old history teacher. The land grant ordinance of 1785 set up the townships that a lot of you where your cemeteries are today came out of the land grant. The school where Worthington High School sits was part of the land grant. Worthington High School has had more state championships in athletics than any other high school in the state of Ohio in their history. I'm sharing with you, when we had freshman orientation, what I shared with the freshman parents and with the students. And then we put the freshman students out on a scavenger hunt. And we asked them, who was the state champion in gymnastics in 1970? And so the scavenger hunt, who are the two Rhodes Scholars who are in the Worthington High School Academic Hall of Fame? And so to help with our branding, I asked the freshmen to go out on a scavenger hunt and gather all of that information. So they understood that the school they were coming to was a very special place. We had two halls of fame, an athletic hall of fame and an academic hall of fame. We conducted each year a celebration of excellence in the spring to recognize all those who were going to be taken into the Athletic Hall of Fame and the Academic Hall of Fame. Our communication tools. I wrote a monthly newsletter to the parents. We utilized announcements over the school day. Every single announcement, I had student announcers, every single announcement every morning ended with, I'm proud to be a Cardinal. We were the Cardinals. That whole idea of it's a special place. It's a special place. We conducted pep rallies. We had a lot of great athletic teams. It was fun. But our first pep rally of the year, the entire school went out to our stadium and we had a celebration of being back to school. Now think about that. You've got a group of kids and you're celebrating being back to school. They loved it. We introduced all the class officers, student council, the athletic teams to set the tone for the coming school year. And our student leaders shared with the student body the goals for the year for the school. Not the principal, but the student leaders. And they shared the goals for the year that had been worked through that during the summer. I met with all the student leaders. Again, what do we do well? What can we do better? That whole idea of branding, who do you wish to become? What's the vision for it? And how do you make it happen? I'm going to use the analogy of World War II. Just my quick visual, probably there are a lot of folks who either remember World War II, were alive when it was occurring, World War II, think of that for a minute. Uncle Sam. Not a bad brand, right? Uncle Sam. War bonds. Rationing. Can you imagine asking Americans today to donate all their metal, to give up a lot of the food that they eat so that the soldiers can get the food? How many people do you think today would be willing to ration like they did during World War II? How come we were able to do it? Because of the branding, because of the fact that a nation came together and felt that the war effort was paramount, more important than their own individual lives. My mom worked in an airplane parts factory during the war. And she did it for very low pay, but she felt it was her way of giving back to the country. Serving one's country, it was a no-brainer. The vast majority of our soldiers in World War II volunteered to serve. Volunteered to serve. So branding can work, even around something like a war. So my questions for you are, what's your marketing plan? What's your sales plan? What is your record management system and plan and system? Do you provide tours for your cemeteries, or does that make any sense at all? What makes you special? Why should people choose you? Branding. What's it look like? What can it look like for your particular business, your particular cemetery, or this organization as you're striving for new members to build that membership? What's the brand? What do you stand for? Who do you want to be, and who can you be? The next piece of the art of the challenge would be creativity. Establishing and maintaining an organizational culture that promotes and embraces creativity is essential. So I ask you, what's your change model? Do you have one? I did a quick Google search and found about 12 different change models very quickly that folks are using in the business world. And I think that it just depends upon what works best for you. But the common themes of these change models are create a sense of urgency, form a powerful coalition, create a vision for change, communicate the vision, empower action, create quick wins, build on change and make it stick. So what's your change model? If you're asking the question, why do I need to change? Why do we need to change? That's the first question. The second may be, well, we're struggling with getting people to work at our cemetery. We can't find anyone who can just simply get on a mower. I know it's not simply, because you have to be very careful, because you do not wish to have a problem with damage to the markers or to any of the important physical property of the cemetery. But how do we change? How do we deal with that change? Finding people who are willing to work, and the most important part of that, people who are responsible to work and do a good job, right? That often is a challenge to us as well. So what's that look like? Creativity. Who do we work with? Who do we partner with to address that? The first thing I would share is that embrace your history. Each of you has things to be proud of with your particular cemetery, your organization, where you work. I'm confident that you have a lot to be proud of. Embrace your history. Celebrate that history. Brand that history. But also, open the lines of communication with all of your stakeholder groups. Who are all the stakeholders in your business? It's a wide range of folks. Is it a fact today that more people are choosing the idea of cremation versus a burial plot? If so, how do we respond to that creatively? How does that work? How do we engage those who are choosing that to be a part of our cemetery? What's that look like? Do we need to be talking to the crematorium owners? Do we need to be talking to funeral directors? What about the pastors of the churches? What's the relationship like there as far as our change model is concerned and what that might look like? How do we respond to mandates and legislation? During the 1970s, education changed dramatically. All of us remember Lyndon Johnson? Okay. First of all, during Lyndon Johnson's administration, IDEA was approved. IDEA sets up special education. Up to 1965, special ed students were not in the buildings. They were bused or taken to individual sites. With the IDEA Act of 1975, all special needs students were to be housed in the buildings where they should be attending, and we had to develop special needs programs to take care of students who were multi-handicapped, special needs, severe behavior handicapped, developmentally handicapped. All students were to be a part of your school. Dramatic change. Dramatic change. We had to be creative about the facilities, about how we taught those students, how they were embraced. It's part of the deal. No Child Left Behind. Some of you may be familiar with that. That's the new federal testing that came out under George Bush II. And that state or federal testing is mandated, and that schools must respond to that. A whole change in the way we did business. And now, sadly, we're teaching to the test is more important often, just sharing my bias, than teaching kids, because we've responded too far. But that's all a part of the game as far as the creativity is concerned. So how do we respond to federal mandates, to state mandates? A good example. How many of you remember Franklin Roosevelt? World War II? What were some of the things he created? Unemployment was huge. People were living even in Hoovervilles. Those were little camps they had even in Washington, D.C., where homeless and unemployed people set up little tents and were living. What did Roosevelt and our Congress do? They established the WPA, the Works Project Administration, that built a lot of beautiful buildings that are still there today. The Civilian Conservation Corps, who redid our national parks and monuments, put people to work with a sense of pride, got them going again, helped address the issues that our country was facing. We can come together, we can respond creatively. It's the process of how we do it that is the key. So what's your change model? What is it that you embrace that you're really good at? And what are those things that maybe we need to take a look at? The key questions to creativity. Keep the lines of communications open to your stakeholders, certainly, and respond and be prepared to not be a victim, but to be proactive. And finally, always remain rooted in your core, your business sense. That's who you are. And again, those 4 C's, character, commitment, compassion, and courage, should drive that core, your business sense. In 1983, I arrived as principal of Ravenna High School up in Northeast Ohio. They had just finished and completed the longest teacher strike in the history of the state of Ohio. 83 days, teachers were on strike. 2 years before that, they had racial riots in the school. Actual physical conflict where the police had to come to take care of the issues. Well, you're asking yourself, why would you be dumb enough to take over and be principal of a school where all that is taking place? Because of the 4 C's. Courage, compassion, character, and commitment. I thought it was the right thing to do, and maybe I could bring something to the table. When I came into the principal's office, the principal had retired. I found over in a corner an axe handle. He had carried the axe handle around with him during the strike. The assistant principal had, when he came to, the administrator still had to come to work. When they would drive through the picket lines, some teachers walked over and across the hood of his car, across the roof and back down. He had dents in his car. That was the type of climate that existed. I knew that Ravenna loved its sports and especially football, and that could be a rallying point possibly to help getting the community and the school especially a sense of healing. So I said this was where I came up with the idea of celebration of being back to school pep rally. I announced that we were going to have a back to school pep rally, and we were going to celebrate being here and getting the new school year started. Had the entire student body come down to the gymnasium. I had taken the axe handle and painted it with blue and white stripes, like a barber pole. The school colors were, of course, blue and white. I had the cheerleaders at the far end of the gym, when the students came in, all in a little huddle, standing facing each other. And I came in, and I led the pep rallies, incidentally, and I welcomed everyone. And by the way, we started all pep rallies, but all meetings, every time the school came together, we started with the cardinal clap. You talk about branding. When I first met with the students, I taught them the cardinal clap, and it's simply rhythmic clapping. So every time we got together for anything, we did the cardinal clap. That became a symbol for our school, even when we had the governor of Ohio who came 3 times to our school. Whenever he got up on the stage and we welcomed him, he was welcomed with the cardinal clap. That's how we started. So I taught them the Ravenna clap. I changed it to the school wherever I was, and taught them that, just to get them warmed up. And then I said, now, at a pep rally, we want to cheer loudly. So, cheerleaders, come forward. And the cheerleaders came forward, and they had the axe handle painted with blue and white stripes held up like this. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the spirit stick. It will be awarded to the class that yells the loudest at this rally. The whole atmosphere changed because the symbol of the school, which had been the principal carrying an axe handle, changed to now it was the spirit stick and a symbol of school pride. That whole idea of courage, character, commitment, and compassion, that idea of your core and who you wish to be. The next thing that we did was we asked every student who wanted to come on Friday night, everyone, parents, to come to the school. At that time, Ravenna did not have a high school stadium, football stadium. We played at the fairgrounds. It was about a mile from the school. We had probably, it's estimated, of course, people always overestimate, how that's done, Well, we had this march on this or whatever it was, and there were 5 million people. Who knows? But we estimate that we had about 2/3 of the student body, their parents, community members, the cheerleaders, the police worked with us, and the whole school went to the stadium. And guess what the cheerleaders were carrying out front with the band? The spirit stick, all the way to the stadium. Symbolic of the community coming together and starting the healing process. My first year in 1988 as principal of Worthington High School, we had a car accident. We lost 9 students during the time that I was principal. I could tell you every single student's name, the year that they passed away. I attended all of the funerals, worked with all the funeral directors. But we had a car accident in which we had open lunch at the time, and students could go away from the high school for lunch. A young lady took her Subaru station wagon, and 8 students were in the car. They went to a McDonald's that was about 3 miles away, got back on 315 down here, and on the way back to the school, she lost control because there were too many kids in the car, and the accident occurred. There were helicopters over, there were the news media. By the time I was at a district administrators meeting, I got back to the school, I found news media already in the building, standing near one of my secretaries who was taking frantic calls from parents regarding, was my child in that car? And that was the situation. We worked through it. We learned from the process. We developed. We had an all-school assembly. I went to every single, all 8 students who were in 4 different hospitals. That evening, I was at all 4 hospitals. I was with every parent, and I get emotional. I was there when Stacy Mankin passed away with her parents at Riverside Hospital in their chapel. That was our first level of response, was that human touch and being there for the parents. We set up a process from that time forward when we had student accidents or student deaths, how we would work with having guidance counselors, community people, a wide range of folks available to work with the students because they're going to be grieving students. Students take it very hard when their fellow students are injured or die. So we developed a whole process in which we exemplified, we hope, character, courage, compassion, and commitment. And my final example of character, courage, compassion, and commitment, Christianity. Christianity began with one individual and 12 disciples. Now, no internet, no newspaper, all word of mouth, finally some writing. You know who the most read author in the world is? The Apostle Paul. The most read author in the world is the Apostle Paul. So think about that. A religion that started with one individual and how they got there through the core of Christianity and getting the word out as to what that was. An amazing, amazing marketing campaign, wasn't it? Fantastic. But they had the pieces together: character, courage, compassion, and commitment. And it worked. So in my parting thoughts to you are simply this. I have tremendous respect for who you are, what you do. We have buried my parents, my wife's parents, worked with funeral homes, worked with my wife's mother, already had that situation where she had everything paid for, where she wanted to be buried next to her husband. She had it all laid out. My mom and dad both were cremated, so differences in the family. But we have been through and worked with folks such as you who demonstrated a lot of caring and a lot of compassion for our family. And I say thank you to you and your fellow colleagues who operate businesses the way that you do. And I think that you have tremendous challenges in front of you because of the unique nature of your business. But I hope that as you face those challenges and you are able to do so, that you take the opportunity to apply the things that we talked about today and make those work for you from the standpoint of the way in which your business goes from this point forward. I thank you for all that you do and having me here this morning. Thank you.